Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The top stories that we're tracking for you tonight. Following pressure from investors and employees, Sam Altman returns as the CEO of OpenAI just 5 days after he was fired by the board. Former Salesforce executive Bret Taylor will be the new chairman, and former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has also been roped in. The CEO of the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, steps down and pleads guilty to violating anti-money laundering provisions in the U.S. Binance agrees to pay a hefty $4.3 billion as penalties in the deal that's likely to preserve the company's ability to remain in business. Israel agrees to a 4-day ceasefire in Gaza. Hamas will release 50 Israeli women and children as part of the deal, which was brokered by Qatar. Israel will release 150 Palestinian prisoners, all women and children. Rescue workers resume drilling to prepare an escape passage for 41 people trapped inside an under-construction tunnel in Uttarkashi for 11 days. Authorities say they expect a breakthrough within 24 hours. The sensex and the nifty recover in the last hour of trade, ending in the green. 5 IPOs open for subscription today. Tata Tech, along with 2 others, see strong demand and are fully subscribed on day one.
Now is the time for them to further strengthen their risk management practices, build additional buffers to face the situation if the business cycle turns adverse.
Build buffers and avoid exuberance, says the RBI governor to banks and NBFCs just days after tightening rules on personal loans and unsecured credit. Cautions that expansion of credit must be in sync with risks. Shares of Adani Ports decline in trade after uncertainty over the award of West Bengal's Tajpur Port. This after Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee invites interested parties to bid for the port at the Bengal Global Business Summit. Bajaj Auto's MD Rajiv Bajaj shares his plans to launch the world's first CNG bike in 2025, says he plans to double the production and sale of the premium Triumph motorcycle in the third quarter. Also adds that the two-wheeler industry is still suffering from over-regulation and taxation, says the company has not yet fully come back to its pre-COVID levels. GST authorities issue a demand notice to Zomato and Swiggy, amounting to almost 750 crore rupees. Sources allege non-payment of GST on delivery fee over a 6-year period. That's a CNBC TV18 exclusive. After a 2-month pause, India resumes all online visa services for Canadian nationals. Medical and business visa services were restored last month. The move is a potential de-escalation by both sides after Canada was asked to reduce diplomatic presence in India following a spat over the killing of a Sikh separatist in Canada. India hosts a virtual G20 summit. Russia's Vladimir Putin, Canada's Justin Trudeau among the global leaders in attendance. US President Joe Biden, China's Xi Jinping and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak give it a miss. As always, let's start with the market action for the day. The Sensex and the Nifty did end in the green today after a last-hour rally. So we saw the Sensex gaining about 90 points. The Nifty did get back above the 19,800 mark. Bank stocks, though, declined in trade today after comments that came in from the RBI governor on unsecured credit. Mid-caps managed to marginally outperform the blue chips. So that's the story. Flat close on the Nifty. The Sensex up by about 90-odd points. The Nifty Bank down in the red. The mid-cap index there higher by about 100 points or so. But the big global story, less than a week after he was sacked by the board of OpenAI, Sam Altman is set to return as the CEO. The decision possibly ends a dramatic 5-day stand-up at the artificial intelligence company, which was thrown into turmoil. The OpenAI board is set to be reconstituted. Rachna standing by with more on the rapid developments that have led to Altman's return. Rachna.
After 5 days of high drama, Sam Altman has been reinstated as the CEO of OpenAI. The board that fired him has also almost been replaced with some big names. The new board now consists of Bret Taylor, former co-CEO Salesforce, who was also the chair of Twitter's board before it was bought by Elon Musk. In fact, it was under Taylor's leadership that the Twitter board refused to back down when Musk tried to withdraw from the proposed deal. There's also Larry Summers, the former Secretary of US Treasury, who has also been roped into the OpenAI board. He has also served as the president of the Harvard University. And then there's Adam D'Angelo, co-founder and CEO of Quora. He's also the only one who was a part of the previous board that fired Altman in the first place on Friday. Greg Brockman, who followed Altman out of OpenAI, has also come back. He confirmed that with a selfie with his co-workers on Twitter. This move of Altman's reinstatement comes after over 700 employees signed a letter threatening to quit. In fact, the employees already had offers ready from Microsoft following Altman unless he was brought back. Now, OpenAI is America's highest valued startup. According to reports, the company has received a term offer from Thrive Capital at a valuation of $80 billion. The subsequent transaction was expected to conclude next month. Microsoft is the largest investor for OpenAI with 49% stake. But even Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella was caught by surprise when Altman was fired. But he was also quick to whip up job offers. So Satya Nadella said that he was encouraged by this essential step and will be working with OpenAI all through the changes. He said, and I quote, that we believe this is a first essential step on a path to more stable, well-informed and effective governance, end quote. But there are a few questions that remain unanswered, like the appointment of Emmett Shear. He was appointed as a CEO, which of course he won't be now that Altman is back. But will he stick around at OpenAI or step back completely? That isn't quite clear. Reports also suggest that 6 additional members could be added to the OpenAI board. This hopefully puts a cap on the intense 5-day-long drama that we saw unfold in the Silicon Valley.
Well, drama it certainly has been. Rachna, let's hope this puts an end to that. Thanks very much for joining us. And as one CEO returns, another is walking out the door. The CEO of the world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, is stepping down after pleading guilty to violating anti-money laundering provisions in the US. Now, the CEO, popularly known as CZ, faces 18 months in jail for allowing the exchange to be used by terror groups like ISIS. Binance will also pay a hefty $4.3 billion penalty as part of a deal with US regulators that is likely to preserve the company's ability to remain in business. Matthew Thomas reports on the big changes shaking up the world of crypto.
The crypto markets are in chaos once more. This after Binance pled guilty to 3 charges including money laundering violations in a historic settlement. The world's largest crypto exchange has admitted to allowing terror groups like ISIS and others to transact on the platform. The company will cough up $4.3 billion as a penalty. The deal ends long-running investigations of Binance by the US Justice Department, the Treasury Department, and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission.
Binance became the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world. Now, Binance is paying one of the largest corporate penalties in U.S. history.
Prosecutors have alleged that the exchange facilitated transactions with customers in sanctioned countries by encouraging users to obscure their location. Binance has also been charged with conspiring to run an unlicensed money-transmitting business and violating banking and sanctions laws.
It deliberately undermined its own sanctions monitoring controls, and it failed to report suspicious transactions. This meant Binance was allowing illicit actors to transact freely, supporting activities from child sexual abuse to illegal narcotics to terrorism across more than 100,000 transactions.
Authorities also highlighted Binance founder Changpeng Zhao's role in the money laundering activities, terming his actions inadequate. The crypto exchange's chief also pled guilty, agreeing to pay a fine of $50 million and step down from his role as the company's chief executive. The 46-year-old faces up to 18 months in prison. However, the Justice Department says it is looking for a stiffer penalty.
We know that corporations only act through the individuals who run them. That is why we have also filed a felony charge against and secured a guilty plea from Changpeng Zhao for willfully violating the Bank Secrecy Act.
Soon after pleading guilty, Zhao took to social media platform X to take responsibility, even admitting that he made mistakes. Cryptocurrencies have been rocked by this development, seeing a sell-off in trade.
This is vindicating of our strategy, and I think it's good for the industry, too, to sort of turn the page, make sure that we're following the laws where it's clear today around AML and KYC.
The fall of FTX and the conviction of Sam Bankman-Fried resulted in a major loss of reputation for the crypto industry. Now Binance has admitted to serious wrongdoings in an attempt to stay afloat. However, its success remains under question. In Mumbai, Matthew Thomas.
Well, it's been a nightmarish world for the tech startup community. Now, in global earnings, chipmaker NVIDIA beat street estimates for the third quarter, fueled by strong demand for graphic processing units used in generative artificial intelligence. Revenue rose over 200% compared to last year. Net income rose to over $9 billion. However, the software major says that US curbs restricting exports to China could hurt performance in the next quarter. Back home, Mama Earth's parent company, Honasa Consumer's net profit nearly doubled to 29 crore rupees in its first quarter results. This after listing on the bourses, that is. The company's revenue from operations up 21% to nearly 500 crore rupees against 410 crore rupees a year ago. The government has cancelled the bidding process to hire an asset valuer for the strategic disinvestment of IDBI Bank. Now, the centre will invite new bids to select a valuer for its stake in the lender. Sources say the government received only a single bid to appoint the asset valuer and is likely to review the criteria to possibly increase interest. On to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. Bharti Group's first public offering after a decade is in the pipeline. The conglomerate has begun the process for the IPO of its subsidiary, Bharti Hexacom. Sources say that Bharti Hexacom's valuation is likely to be pegged at 20,000 crore rupees. The listing process is likely to be completed by early 2024. The IPO aims to give government-owned telecommunications consultants India a partial or a full exit. 5 IPOs opened on the last street today. Tata Tech and 2 others have seen strong demand and were fully subscribed on day one. Yash is here with the IPO wrap. Yash, what a week it's turning out to be for the IPO market.
Well, Shireen, absolutely stunning as far as the IPO market is concerned. 5 IPOs opened today, 1 IPO opened yesterday. So altogether today, there were 6 IPOs which were open for subscription. I'll start with the 5 IPOs which opened today. Let's start with Tata Tech first. First, of course, from the Tata Group in about 19 years. The IPO was fully subscribed in the first 2 hours itself. By the end of the day, the total subscription for the IPO, that stood at 6.5 times. The QIB portion getting subscribed 4 times, HNI at 11.7 times, retail 5.5 times, employee 1.1 times, and the reserve portion category was subscribed about 9 times. The next one was Gandhar Oil IPO. That IPO was subscribed about 5.5 times, QIB 1.5 times, HNI 7.7 times, and retail about 7 times. Flair Writing Industries was another interesting IPO which opened today. The IPO was subscribed 2 times. QIB portion, that saw the response was slightly lukewarm, getting subscribed just about 50%. HNI about 2.8 times, retail at 3 times. Now, Fedbank Financial, that IPO did not see a strong response as compared to the others in the list. So the total IPO could only get subscribed 38%. QIB subscription was nil. HNI was 21%, retail at 67%, employee portion getting subscribed 37%. Essentially, Fedbank Financial was the only IPO today out of the 4 which opened today which could not be fully subscribed. Others had very, very strong subscription numbers.
All right, Yash, many thanks for joining us. That's the IPO pipeline for this week. Now, shares of Adani Ports declining in trade. This after the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee urged interested parties to bid for the deep-sea port development project at Tajpur. Now, this has raised questions over the Adani Group's involvement with the project. Remember, the West Bengal Industrial Development Corporation had given a letter of award to Adani Ports for this project in October last year. CNBC TV18 has reached out to Adani Ports for a comment. We haven't received one just yet. Here's Mamata Banerjee.
Proposed first deep sea port at Tajpur. That is ready. You can participate the tender, and also you can, this will attract an investment about $3 billion US, means 25,000 crores.
Well, that's the West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has asked banks and NBFCs to build capital buffers and avoid exuberance in the case of any adverse turn in the business cycle. And this comes just days after the RBI tightened rules on unsecured credit. Here's the governor.
Banks and NBFCs may take due care to ensure that credit growth at the overall sectoral and subsectoral levels remain sustainable, and all forms of exuberance must be avoided. Though the banks are well capitalized, they must constantly evaluate their exposure to NBFCs and the exposure of individual NBFCs to multiple banks. Certain NBFC MFIs appear to be enjoying relatively higher net interest margins. It is indeed for macrofinancial lenders themselves to ensure that the flexibility provided to them in setting interest rates is used judiciously.
Well, from one newsmaker to another this evening, Bajaj Auto MD Rajiv Bajaj has said the company hopes to launch the world's first CNG two-wheeler in 2025. Speaking to CNBC TV18's Parikshit Luthra, he said the company expects the sales of its premium motorcycle, the Triumph bikes, to double to 18,000 units in Q3. Bajaj Auto and UK's Triumph motorcycles have entered into a partnership to manufacture premium bikes in India. Bajaj Auto also says that the two-wheeler industry has not yet bounced back from its pre-COVID levels yet, and the sector continues to suffer from over-regulation and over-taxation. Take a look.
We are taken a little bit by surprise, I must admit. We had prepared ourselves for 5,000 a month because, primarily the market leader there, Royal Enfield, is a very tall and very deep brand. All of us have tried over and over again in recent years, but nobody's really been able to make an impact. So our initial capacity, as I had shared with you previously, was for 5,000 a month. And yes, last quarter we have done, I think, 8,000 totally. This quarter, I think we should more than double that to about 18,000, which means an average of 6,000. So out of a capacity of 5,000 a month, we will hopefully be able to squeeze out 6,000 Triumphs on an average every month this quarter. Our industry and two-wheelers in this country has really suffered in recent times, not so much because of the COVID lockdown, not so much because of commodity price increases, not so much because of the chips and chip shortage, as it has for the fact that it is over-regulated and over-taxed.
And you can catch that full interview with Bajaj Auto's MD Rajiv Bajaj at 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV18. Staying with auto, Ather Energy has announced that it will launch an electric scooter designed for families, and it is expected to be launched in 2024. Announcing the company's plans on social media platform X, CEO Tarun Mehta said the scooter will be affordable to ensure accessibility. Ather's main competition in this category will be the TVS iQ. India's SW Solar has won a mega order worth $2.2 billion in Nigeria. The project includes 961 megawatts of solar PV generation and 455 megawatts of battery energy storage systems. Sources tell us that a formal deal signing for the order is yet to happen. Execution of the project will begin 6 months after signing of the deal. The company could look at double-digit margins from this particular project. Texmaco Rail has launched a qualified institutional placement to raise 750 crore rupees. The issue also includes a green shoe option of 200 crores. Texmaco Rail's shares up 3% in early trade. And shares of fabric maker Raymond declined for the 7th straight session. This is the longest losing streak in 3 years and has wiped out nearly 1,500 crore rupees in market cap. This comes after Nawaz Modi, the wife of Raymond MD Gautam Singhania, accused him of assault. Singhania has denied the allegations. Both are in the process of a divorce. Now to the latest from Uttarakhand, where operations to rescue 41 workers trapped inside an under-construction tunnel has entered day 11. Rescue workers have resumed drilling to prepare an escape passage. Authorities have said that they expect a breakthrough within the next 24 hours. Furthermore, state authorities have also said that essential items like electrolyte powders, multivitamin tablets are being sent to those trapped inside the tunnel. Anshul Singh filed this report from location.
The rescue operations out here are in full flow, and at this point in time, I'll just try and show you the visuals. The drilling operation will start in the next few minutes is what we have been told. At this point, the pipes that are being taken inside through which the welding process will happen is going inside. What we have been told that the 5th pipe at this point in time will be welded in the next few minutes. Post that, we are expecting that this entire drilling process would start. It actually takes somewhere around 2.5 to 3 hours for this entire welding process to happen, because remember, once the welding is happening, it takes somewhere around 2 hours, and post that 2 hours, it takes actually half an hour for that pipes to cool down, and then this entire drilling process starts. If everything goes according to the plans of the rescuers, it is expected that within the next 2 days we can get the good news that we are hoping to hear for the last 2 days. It is still a big question mark if everything will go according to the plan. You can see in the visuals over here how cranes are now being used to take these pipes inside. These pipes are going to prove the lifeline through which all these people would be dragged out eventually if everything goes according to the plan. So yes, the rescue operations are in full flow.
Well, hope that there will be a breakthrough in the next 24 hours. Up next on India Business Hour, GST authorities have issued a demand notice to Zomato and Swiggy amounting to almost 750 crore rupees. Sources allege non-payment of GST on delivery fee over a 6-year period. You can also catch all of CNBC TV18's news and updates on WhatsApp, Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. After days of negotiations with Hamas, Israel has finally agreed for a temporary ceasefire, pausing its offensive in Gaza for 4 days. Now, as part of the deal, Hamas will release 50 Israeli women and children held as hostages in Gaza. Israel will also free 150 Palestinian women and children from its jails. The first hostage return is expected tomorrow. The deal will also entail the passage of more number of humanitarian convoys and relief aid. In his address to the cabinet, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the first hostages should be free within 48 hours of the agreement. US President Joe Biden welcoming the truce. He said he was extraordinarily gratified, thanked the Qatar and Egypt governments for their critical leadership. The UN has called the truce an important step, but added that more was needed. Meanwhile, Doctors Without Borders has said it is horrified by the killing of 3 of its doctors following a strike on the Al-Orda hospital, one of the last remaining functional hospitals in northern Gaza. India hosted a virtual G20 summit today. Russia's Vladimir Putin, Canada's Justin Trudeau were among the global leaders in attendance. US President Biden, China's Xi Jinping and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak were not part of the summit today. Speaking at the summit, Prime Minister Modi, addressing the temporary truce between Israel and Hamas, welcomed the release of the hostages and added that terrorism and death of civilians is not acceptable.
आज हुए हॉस्टेजेस के रिलीज के समाचार का हम स्वागत करते हैं। मानवीय सहायता का समय से और निरंतर पहुंचना आवश्यक है। ये सुनिश्चित करना भी जरूरी है कि इजरायल और हमास की लड़ाई किसी तरह का क्षेत्रीय रूप धारण न कर ले।
India has resumed all online visa services for Canadian nationals after a 2-month pause. Medical and business visa services were already restored last month. The move is being seen as potential de-escalation by both sides after Canada was told to reduce diplomatic presence following a spat of the killing of a Sikh separatist in Canada. Remember, Canada alleged the involvement of Indian authorities. The Supreme Court heard a number of petitions seeking a relook into its July 2022 judgment, which had upheld provisions of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, petitioners argued that PMLA gave the ED powers similar to the police, which forced an accused or a witness to give statements without knowing the grounds on which they were summoned. The hearing will continue tomorrow. The Directorate General of GST Intelligence has issued a demand notice to Zomato and Swiggy for the non-payment of GST on delivery fee that they charge. Now, the GST body insists that since delivery is a service, the food aggregators are liable to pay GST. Timsy Jaipuria standing by with the details. Timsy, what does this mean for companies like Swiggy and Zomato?
Well, what we understand from DGGI sources is that DGGI has issued GST demand notice to Swiggy and Zomato. This is based on the investigation which was initiated by the Pune zone of DGGI against Swiggy and Zomato on non-payment of GST on delivery fees. Swiggy and Zomato have been given a demand notice for the period between July 2017 till March 2023, and the estimated demand from Zomato is over 400 crore rupees, whereas for Swiggy is around 350 crore rupees. Meanwhile, when we reached out to officers, they shared that DGGI is of a view that delivery is a service, so Swiggy and Zomato are liable to pay GST on the service that they provide for delivery of goods. Meanwhile, industry is of a view that Swiggy and Zomato are just platforms. They hire gig workers on per delivery basis and they are just collecting it from the consumers to be handed over to gig workers just because they are the platform. They don't collect the service on their personal basis and thus they are not liable to pay GST. It is the gig workers who are liable to pay the GST, and since they are under the 20 lakh crore threshold, they are exempt from GST. Meanwhile, when we reached out to Swiggy and Zomato for their comments, there are no comments so far. But yes, what we have to see now is whether these two companies will contest the demand or whether they'll pay to the GST authorities. That is to be seen. Back to you.
Timsy, many thanks for joining us. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks very much for watching. Do stay tuned. The news continues here on CNBC TV18.